And welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Usually on Thursday, we bring you Malzberg's Media Madness with Tim Graham. Today, we have Rich Noyes, who's Tim's colleague. He's the research director at the Media Research Center and senior editor of newsbusters.org. So we moved the whole thing a day earlier. I'd like to say out of respect to Tim, but I can't honestly say that. Anyway, Tim will be back next week. So, Rich, welcome aboard.
Thanks for having me, Steve.
My pleasure. Let's start with MSNBC. Apparently, they did some editing because of an embarrassing moment on Meet the Press. And we enhanced the embarrassing moment in this next soundbite. It's Ted Cruz talking about comparing Ronald Reagan or Alito to Reagan. And you'll hear the moderator, of course, of Meet the Press, Chuck Todd, say, "Oh, God," and we really made it loud so you could hear it. Now listen.
And Chuck, just as Ronald Reagan was to the presidency, so Antonin Scalia was to the Supreme Court. He had that big an impact.
No doubt.
And I think his passing yesterday really underscores the stakes of this election.
Now, after some people noticed that, guess what appeared on the website after? Let's play the cut again.
Just as Ronald Reagan was to the presidency, so Antonin Scalia was to the Supreme Court. He had that big an impact. And I think his passing yesterday really underscores the stakes of this election. So,
Rich, they took out the "oh, God," which could have been a number of things, but, I mean, he's on Meet the Press. He's doing an interview. He says, "Oh, God." Did he think he was off mic? I can't imagine under what circumstances he would have said, "Oh, God," even if he was criticizing Cruz for comparing in any way Scalia and Reagan.
Yeah, I mean, we don't know exactly what was going on there, but we do know that MSNBC decided to doctor one of NBC's broadcasts before they put it on their own airwaves. That's not exactly the news business. That's a different kind of a business other than news. And, the idea that it's somehow objectionable to compare Reagan and Scalia, look, I mean, Scalia was a brilliant Supreme Court justice. He helped sort of move the correct philosophy in where justices are supposed to interpret the Constitution, not write decisions based on what they wish the Constitution said. I think it's perfectly appropriate to compare him to Ronald Reagan and try to bring that same philosophy to the presidency. They're both sort of towering conservative figures of the last 50 years, Chuck Todd notwithstanding.
Yeah, and we could go back and document some other edits from MSNBC, one involving Mitt Romney and others, so, including the, I think it was a Trayvon Martin tape, if I'm not mistaken. So we could go way, way back and talk about that, unless MSNBC wasn't Trayvon Martin. But anyway.
That was NBC.
That was NBC, okay. Silly me. Now, sticking with the Supreme Court issue, Newsbusters reported that CBS and NBC News both said in their reporting of Obama and his plan to make a Supreme Court nomination to replace Scalia, that Obama plans to follow the Constitution against the Republican roadblock on this vacancy, which is pretty interesting because there is nothing in the Constitution that Obama would be following or that the Republicans would be violating.
Right. Well, nothing the Republicans would be violating. That's the most important part. Yeah. I mean, the idea that they're making a big show out of saying Obama's going to follow the Constitution. I mean, how many times has Obama not followed the Constitution?
Right.
When it comes to the executive amnesty that his office created, that's before the Supreme Court right now. These clean air rules that were imposed on businesses outside of working with Congress. The president has tried to define the Congress's role as rubber stamping whatever he comes up with. Otherwise, they're not doing their job, and he's got to go it alone. That is something the media should have been pushing against during Obama's term. But now, they've basically been quiet about those excesses or called them Republican complaints, not universal complaints. And now they're trying to suggest that it's, the president simply following the Constitution.
And the Republicans
are. Anybody who doesn't agree is not doing their job.
Yeah, absolutely. Which leads us to this in the last minute. There's a Rasmussen poll out that finds that when asked which is the bigger problem in politics today, voters pick media bias even over money.
Right.
That's amazing that they're that. I'm glad that they're that well informed.
Yeah, but look at the campaign so far. I mean, Republicans are these wacky extremists. You just had a debate on, I think it was PBS last week, where They don't ask a single question about Hillary Clinton's scandals, but they ask Bernie Sanders if he's going to thwart history by stopping the first one president. I mean, the media are putting their thumb on the scales. They are tampering with this election, and the public is just noticing it.
But I think it's a victory for people like you and your organization and us, too, here at Newsmax, that people do realize it and that they do understand what's going on. And Judy Woodruff, a contributor to the Clinton Foundation, reportedly, according to what I read. And Gwen Ifill, don't forget, she had a book pending on Obama when she moderated the Obama-Romney debate. You can't make this stuff up. Rich, great to see you. Thank you, sir, for filling in for Tim. We'll speak to you again. Gimme 5 is next. More on Obama and Alito. Don't go away.